Hi, I'm Dave Barnes.
And I'm John McLaughlin.
And welcome to Dadville.
Dadville is a podcast where we talk about life, love, and the pursuit of awesome dadding.
It's funny thoughts and deep talks.
So please, enjoy your time here in Dadville and enjoy this episode with...
Matthew West. Johnny.
Dave.
I wanted you to say Davey, but that's okay. You don't do it.
No, I can do it.
Okay.
I can do it. Say my name again.
Okay. Johnny.
Davey.
Actually, don't do
I don't
that
like
anymore.
that.
Yeah, let's
I
not
don't
do
like
that.
Okay.
You know, it is a billion degrees out there,
It's
Johnny.
hot.
A billion million.
Tell me about it.
Yep.
I never sweat so much while mowing the lawn in my entire life.
Yeah, I noticed that. I worry about you.
I almost had to stop because, you're not supposed to mow when the grass is wet.
And you couldn't help it. You were just drip dropping over there. Let me tell you a fun little fact I've learned, okay?
Tell me.
That's where Manscaped comes in.
Yes,
the
it is.
Manscaped Performance Package 4.0 has everything you need. Inside this package, buckle up, here we go, John.
Here we go.
You'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance Boxer briefs. I'm not done, folks, and a travel bag to hold your goodies.
All your goodies. Their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer features a cutting-edge, literally ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents. We've all had them. We don't want to have them anymore.
I've got scars.
Thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology, the Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor, Dave.
I don't feel like that's legal.
I don't know if it's street legal.
It was 5,000 last time I checked.
They went up to 7.
Ugh.
A new multi-function on-off switch that can engage a travel lock, which is nice, and gives you the ability to turn on the 4K LED spotlight on and off when needed for a precise shave.
I think that's the power of a tanning salon. I think they hover in the
you're
2,000.
Right. I like to shave in the spotlight, and now you can.
You can. Manscaped even threw in 2 free bags into their Performance Package 4.0, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag that will bring your comfort to another level.
Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code DADVILLE at manscaped.com.
That's 20% off. 20%, John, plus free shipping with the code DADVILLE at manscaped.com. It's smooth skin summer, boys. Get on board or get left behind.
Here we go.
So, we're starting, by the way. Just so you know.
We're on?
Yeah, we're on.
Let's go.
Matthew, we're always on.
We've spent an hour talking
I
before.
want the listeners to know we've been chatting for an hour, and now we're starting.
With really the best stuff.
I've loved every second of it.
Some of our deepest fears.
A lot of sins. I was really surprised by a lot of your guys' sins
that
you shared.
I was just looking for a safe place, and I felt like this was one. Turns out it's not.
Well, I don't want to say it's not, but we are going to use it against you.
Okay.
But it'll make you stronger.
Okay.
I
like that.
So I want to start with the brag sheet here, which, Matthew, this is kind of like an epistle, man. This is really amazing how long this is. Okay, buckle up. Here we go.
Oh, geez.
Matthew West. Oh, I should say Matthew's our guest today.
Thank
everybody.
you, guys. I want to say I'm honored to be here.
We're honored that you're here.
Thank you.
Don't do that. Okay, Matthew West is a 5-time Grammy nominee, a multiple ASCAP Christian Music Songwriter Artist of the Year winner.
Bruce Hornsby.
10-time, nominee. And a 2018 Dove Award Songwriter of the Year artist recipient. He has received an American Music Award, a Billboard Music Award, a K-Love Fan Award, and named Billboard's Hot Christian Songwriter of the Year. Hottest. A recipient of the Rich Mullins Impact Award, West also received a Primetime Emmy Award. Good gracious. Nomination for original music.
It was a
and
soap
lyrics
opera I did.
for the title track for the feature film The Heart of Christmas. He has been awarded RIAA, that's for those in the industry, gold certification for his single Hello, My Name Is, and RIAA platinum certification for the song The Motions. In addition, folks, there's more to come. In addition to his own recording career, I love this, by the way. I think this is so cool. He's co-host of the K-Love Fan Awards. I bet you crushed that 5 times, and is more than 130 songwriting credits to his name. Is that true? 130?
I don't.
That's amazing.
I did not walk in. I want your listeners to know I didn't walk in and hand you this, whatever you're reading.
Well, you texted it to me on your way. 100, so including cuts by Rascal Flatts, Scotty McCreery, Michael W. Smith, Amy Grant, Mandisa, Danny Goki, and others, along with back-to-back #1 songs by Casting Crowns, including their recent single Nobody, which Wes has featured. I mean, what are you not doing? Okay, there's still more. Adding author to his list of accolades, Wes has written 5 books to date: Give This Christmas Away, The Story of Your Life, Forgiveness, Today is Day One, and his latest, Hello, My Name Is. He is also passionate about providing hope. I love this, by the way. And healing through the power of prayer and story. Along with his father, Pastor Joe West, they founded Popway, is that what he said?
Pop Wee.
Pop
yeah,
Wee,
like
okay.
like like a population sign when you drive into a town.
Oh, yeah,
It's
population.
a weird name, but he's my pop, and we built a
Oh, I love
nonprofit.
that. That's
okay.
great. Popwe, a nonprofit ministry helping others to craft, share, and live a more meaningful life. A couple other points. I thought this was cool. In 2020, he started his own imprint on Sony called
Yes.
Storyhouse Music. That's awesome. His book, God Who Stays, comes out in September.
Yes.
Right? And hosts the Matthew West podcast. Come on.
the same network with
Yeah,
Dad.
yeah, killing it. Over 100 episodes, 2 million downloads. Crazy. Just won Male Entertainer of the Year. Come on, man. That's amazing.
You do that to make me feel uncomfortable.
No,
Is
that's
that what you do to your guests?
Well, we ask you to disrobe with every compliment.
I know. Well, I listened when you I just caught that part.
So if you go ahead and just kind of.
But I listened to Bruce Hornsby, and I felt like he was as uncomfortable as I feel right now when you.
Well,
read
I mean,
that.
it's look all this stuff. So the question I always love asking is like, what would a 16-year-old, if I read that to 16-year-old Matthew West,
Yeah.
like this is going to be you in 11 years, wink, wink. What is he thinking when he hears that?
He would be thinking, "Wait, I'm not going to play baseball."
Oh, that's right.
He would be so disappointed by what you just read.
He would be like, that sounds like a lot.
He's
of
like,
work.
is that after my years with the Astros? Or?
Is that after I play in the All-Star game for the Chicago Cubs
Yes.
or whatever? Yeah, I mean, that's the great irony of, I think, probably a lot of our stories in life is
Right.
I always think a lot about how, like, it's like we always focus on, this thing was the best thing that ever happened to me. But, like, a lot of times I can pinpoint key moments in my story where it's like, that's the best thing that never happened to me.
Wow.
Right? Like, just the thought of, like, here I had these dreams of being a baseball player, and I was not as good as I thought I was. I remember scouts were coming to our games. I grew up in the Chicago suburbs, and what's funny is the Chicago Sun-Times newspaper, they would do a preseason, like, back page of the sports page. They would list the top college prospects at each position, and my name was number 1 at first base.
Wow.
And I cut that article out, took it with me to every class. And when my teachers asked why I wasn't doing my work, I slid that article across the desk.
No. So it was laminated.
I thought my ticket was punched. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, I am going to get a scholarship at the very least, or I'm going to get drafted or something.
Of course.
And that my teachers were like, there's a slight chance that doesn't happen, 1% or whatever. And but I had blinders on. I've always had blinders on when I'm focused towards something, like, and I remember scouts were coming to my high school games, and I thought, like, if I do well, like, this is it. But they were looking at the center fielder, and they weren't looking at me. He was the gifted athlete. He got drafted by the White Sox, tore his ACL twice, and now he's a dentist.
Wow.
And I'm on the Dadville podcast. Look at how life works out.
It all works out for everyone.
But I do think I think a lot. It's funny. I think literally 16-year-old me would not be enamored or elated by that list, because this all wasn't even on my radar at 16. I sang, but it was like a party trick, because people, like, every time I sang, people were like, "Man, you really have a gift." But it was like you're singing at your church growing up, or singing at a talent contest, but it was never what I wasn't. I don't know. It wasn't cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So
right.
Baseball.
But
was
you
my
were playing
focus.
guitar at that time?
I didn't start playing guitar until I left high school, and then I studied music in college.
Okay.
And the reason why I wound up studying music in college was because I didn't get a baseball scholarship, and my grades were terrible. And I knew I had to find a way to get to college, and I had a music teacher who said, you don't realize you're actually really talented. You could get a music scholarship. And so I remember I had to learn a classical piece to audition for this school of music, and they gave me Handel's Messiah. But I went in and I didn't know how to sing like classical performance. And so I went in for my audition and I sang it like Boys to Men, end of the road.
Gosh.
And like I had these different runs and stuff in it, and I think the judges or the professors were like super confused, but they must have seen through the rough around my edges and gave me a scholarship. And so the next thing I knew, I was not going to college to play baseball. I was going to college to study music. So,
So what age would hear that and get excited? So
well,
a 16-year-old would.
Yeah, so probably like two short years later, I was already.
You were in.
I was hooked.
Yeah,
I got a poster from Walmart called the Chord Finder.
Oh, dude.
And I put it on my dorm room door. And I was also at the music conservatory, so I was getting this like epic crash course of theory, and then I'd be in my dorm just learning to play chords. And with every chord I would learn, I would write a new song.
Yeah.
So songwriting immediately was like, that was the hook for me. It was like, wait a minute, I could tell my story.
So what
through
was the
songs.
school that you went to?
I call it the Harvard of Central Illinois.
Sure.
It was called Millikan University.
Oh, I know Millikan.
And have you probably played shows there?
I think at some point I have.
In Decatur, Illinois.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
And a great irony of so I was notoriously, I loved everything about school except for the academic part. That goes for high school and college.
Yeah,
You guys just take that out.
I love the social
How
part.
dedicated are we to the academic?
Like how
It's getting in the
essential.
way.
It does. It gets in the way of a good
lot.
time.
It does.
And
A lot of administrators don't see that.
so one of the things that's not on that list that you read, and I'm gonna have my my PR team amend it, was I won the Young Alumni Award from my university, which caused an uproar with my former like fellow students, all my buddies. Like when they heard that I won the Young Alumni Award because of my achievements in music, like they were so mad because they were like, well, apparently grade point average isn't taken into account because my grades were like, they knew that they were the reason I graduated.
Yeah, that's right.
But I was the one holding this plaque on campus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Anyway.
meeting you. They like hold just like with their arms on you.
Yeah.
So the question, John and I were talking about this as we were talking about having you on. The thing that, let me say this first. I think about how you've done music now for a while. Like that's been, your job, your whole, sort of adult life. I remember the beginnings of that here in Nashville because I remember I was telling John, it's so interesting. I remember you playing the NACA circuit and doing like
colleges.
the colleges and stuff.
Which you were doing as
Which
well.
yes,
and I think
that's
you
right.
as well,
Yeah,
right,
John
John?
was-
I never got into the NACA circuit, but I knew some people who were doing it, probably like you and maybe Works.
I didn't really do it much either. At
the time I heard you can get in on the NACA circuit and you can make like $500 a show.
Oh,
and I
dude,
was
yeah,
like,
it was
how do
like-
I get
It was
in on that?
It was like what National Association of Campus Activities or
Yes.
something,
Yeah.
and you could go and showcase for universities in this one region. And
Yeah.
you'd play a 15-minute showcase, and then the colleges, the students would sign you
Would bid,
to
yeah.
contracts,
Right.
and you'd book a whole 30-city tour all
Yeah.
in Pennsylvania
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a best kept secret for starving artists because instead of playing for tips somewhere, you could actually go and guaranteed to get a check.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
was no guarantee, however, that anybody would show
Oh,
up.
that
that's
was the thing.
Like
that was NACA's whole thing.
The image of it was always like an empty cafeteria.
Oh,
But
it was
you
so
got paid like
humbling.
$1,500.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because they have these budgets and they have to spend them.
Yeah.
University of Sioux Falls, they called it, sometimes you would get booked
It's kind of like
for something
the
they
Harvard
called
of Sioux Falls.
the Harvard of Sioux Falls, yes. They would
Central
book you
Sioux
for what
Falls.
they called a nooner.
Ooh.
And
You knew.
And you knew, so you would be in the cafeteria, which is where the highest traffic was,
Right.
at 12 noon,
Yep.
Yeah.
with a microphone while the
Oh,
kids
just
walked down the
nobody.
cafeteria line. So they're throwing tater tots at you and you're playing whatever popular cover is at the day, like at the time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So for me, I'd be up there
Blink
going like
182.
yeah, or like Meet Virginia or whatever,
yeah,
like
yeah.
and then I would throw in an original and these kids would be ruthless, nobody listening. So I started like making up songs about like the kid with the red sweatshirt who just threw a tater tot at me, and all of his buddies start laughing at him, but then the crowd would start coming together. So like humor early on was like, oh,
Yeah,
like okay.
yeah.
So you learn little tricks and stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
the thing, I remember that about that from that is like you lived down the street at the time from some friends of mine.
Yes.
And I remember that you like almost cut your hand off
Yes.
or something.
I had a
crazy.
terrible injury.
Like,
my arm.
were you pushing the window open or
Yeah,
something?
it was. I won't gross your listeners out, but like just even the fact that I have a career in music now is like I smile to think about like the obstacles I've had to overcome, and some of them have been literally like physical trials. And so I literally have a scar that runs down the length of my forearm.
Dude, look at that scar,
It's
John.
gnarly, dude. Look at
Wow.
That is
like
serious.
a foot long scar.
Yeah, and the scar it resembles. I not to get like spiritual, but like obviously our scars, physical and otherwise, they tell pretty
Yeah.
powerful stories.
Yeah.
And for me, it was 2 weeks before I was supposed to sign my record deal. I had tried to get a record deal for 4 years and got rejected by every label. And so I had started a career as an everyday songwriter. So when you were reading that list of people I've written songs for, that only came about by way of the rejection from the labels who didn't give me a deal.
Right.
So I was just writing songs for other people. And finally, a record label said, no, we think you're an artist too. And 2 weeks before that, I had this crazy injury trying to open a window at my little duplex that I was renting, and almost lost my life. And then some construction workers saved my life.
Dude, that is...
And,
so were you, what was the scene? Were you by yourself?
I was by myself. And I'll spare you the details, but I opened this window and it got stuck. And when I tried to finish open, like my hand slipped, fell through the glass, and then I was in my front lawn basically dying. Like I was losing a lot of blood fast. And these construction workers heard me crying out, and they came and like formed a tourniquet. I remember they took their bandanas and formed a tourniquet and then poured water on me because it looked like I was at a crime scene. And they kept me alert, and the ambulance took me to Vanderbilt Hospital.
Holy cow.
So it was crazy. But like the stuff that came out of that, like it's just amazing, because I had just started dating this girl, Emily, and she stayed by my side that whole time. And like I remember I had 150 stitches in my arm, and I proposed to her, like, because she like never left my side. Like, so some beautiful things came out of like this horrible experience. And I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to play guitar again. And my record label I didn't let them know how serious it was.
Wow.
And I was very careful. I was like, I wanted them to think, hey, this is just a minor injury. Well, a year later, I still wasn't able to pick up a guitar.
A year later.
But they signed me to that deal. I remember, so this is I signed my first record deal with, I'm left-handed, and the injury was on my left hand. I signed it with my right hand.
Oh my gosh.
And so it was crazy.
What a crazy story.
But yeah, I remember.
But that was literally like, I'd known you, like Orts, and I would see you around all the time.
Well, and I was such a fan, and I still am. I'm a huge fan of both of you guys and your music, and your podcast, of course. But like I remember meeting you back in the day, and you had these songs like Grace's Amazing Hands, and like I would watch you play and sing. I'm like, this guy, like, forget John Mayer. Like, Dave Barnes is my guy.
Is he still around, by the way? What's he doing?
I don't know.
I remember when
sad.
John Mayer commented about, like, you and I were talking about, you had put out a song. I think it might have been Grace's Amazing Hands, and John Mayer, like, called. I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Like, Dave Barnes,
well,
let's go.
but you know what I was going to ask is, like, I remember those days, like early days, Matthew S. getting started. And then, here you are still. I mean, you just, we just read your brag sheet. You're still not just doing music, we're doing all these other things. I'm
not
curious.
Just doing music. You just won the male entertainer of the year.
Yeah. Crazy, right? What I love having this conversation with our friend John, and I talk about this just with each other. Just being two guys that have done this as long as we have.
Yeah.
How do you feel now? Like, you're all these years into a career. Where's your brain with it now? Like, you're this established artist, but you're also, it's an interesting thing being our ages doing what we do.
Yeah.
Like, how do you think about that?
Yeah, I think some days it's like you're still looking over your shoulder going, like, when is the latest song going to be the last song? Like, not the last one I'm going to write. Like, but you wonder, like, I think these days you're so thankful for the gift of longevity.
Yeah.
And like, so I think a lot of things. I think in one respect, I'm more comfortable in my own skin than I ever have been before.
Yeah.
I think early on in my career, I was made to feel by a lot of labels like that I wasn't enough of a rock star. And like, I needed to be like, I didn't need to be that funny guy making up a song about the kid with the red sweatshirt. Even though that was pulling the crowd in, they thought that was
so you're
cheesy.
still using that song?
Yeah, I'm still doing that song. Yeah, I'm still playing cafeterias.
You plant a kid.
He's on the payroll
Yeah. That song has never left my set list. But I think just over the years, I started to get comfortable, and I feel now more than ever, maybe having my own podcast is part of it. And just I think as you grow as a communicator and you realize, like, really when you're in music, like, there's true musicians, and I'm a musician, but like, I feel like I'm as much of a communicator as I am a musician, right?
Yeah.
I'm passionate about songwriting. I'm passionate about storytelling. I'm passionate about helping people after the 3-minute song is over. I'm passionate about making a connection with people. And so I think over the years I just got more comfortable in my own skin of like, you know what? Humor is one of the things that makes me me.
Yeah.
And my wife and daughters may not think I'm funny, but, you know, a comedian's not honored in his own home,
Right.
of course.
Right.
But, like, you know, so just get it. I think at this point in my life, I'm thankful for longevity because it's allowed me the chance to get a little more comfortable in my own skin, have more clarity of what my mission is in life and vision. Because sometimes I think artists have a really hard time of, like, by the time their window closes, like, that's when they were just figuring out who they are and what they do. And so, I don't know. I think I'm really thankful that I can still be making music. And at the same time, I'm probably just as insecure as I ever was. You know, I think I'm so driven in my life. And sometimes I think my drive comes from an unhealthy place, too, of just like, well, maybe if I do this, then I'm good enough, or then I'm validated, or whatever it is. You know, so there's always the unhealthy sides of our wiring. And Annie Downs' podcast helps me with that, like, because I would do her Enneagram summer.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, I called her one day, and I'm like, you broke me. Like, because I was headed to a writing session, and I was listening to, like, and I found my Enneagram number from her podcast.
Which one was it?
Well, it was a 3, of course.
Yeah.
And I started to, like, it just, like, I felt all this shame about, like, the worst parts of me.
Wow.
And I had to go to this writing session, and I was, like, my brain was broken. And I literally, like, normally I'd be like the guy, like, I got to come up with the best line, blah, 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 whatever. And, dude, I just, like, sat there for 2 hours, like, unable to. And this young artist I was writing with, he was, like, really looking forward to writing with me. And I finally just stood up and said, I got to go. And I just laughed.
He's like, Matthew, do you cry a lot during your writing sessions? I feel like.
I called Annie. I was like, what the heck have you done to me?
Isn't it crazy?
But, yeah. So, I don't know. I think I don't know if that answers your question, but.
Dave.
John.
You know, it can be so easy to get burnt out from work or just life in general.
Yeah, especially I feel like in our culture that prioritizes work and craziness over rest.
Yeah. Well, not only can burnout be physically draining, but it can also take a serious toll on your mental health as well.
That's why it's so important to prioritize taking care of your mental health through ways such as therapy.
You know, BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to even see anyone on camera if you don't want to.
It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours.
And right now, Dadville listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/Dadville.
That's betterhelp.com/Dadville. If you could go back and talk to that 20-year-old version of you, you know, do the sort of like visit him, you know, you appear in his, like, you know, living room.
Yes.
What do you think you would tell him about that stuff? Like, you know, and I mean, if it was me doing that, I'd be like, I wouldn't listen to myself. I'd be like, you don't know me, bro. Like, I got stuff to do, you know. But like, what do you think you would say to him?
Gosh, I mean, I think for all the years of like just being eaten up inside with insecurity, like, I wish that, like, I would probably try to address that with him a little bit so that he could try to find that place of comfort a little bit sooner. You know what I mean? Like, I think I've always been this blend of like confidence and insecurity, and maybe that's a sweet spot too, you know, because I think I've never walked into a room going, I belong here. All eyes should be on me. Like, I always tend to be the other way, but then when the moment comes and it's time for me to sing, like, you know what I mean? Like, but I don't know. Like, I was telling you guys I had a writing session this week where like I walked in and like, I just felt like, man, I'm not cool enough to be in this room or something.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm like, why do I feel like,
Well,
what
you
is
know,
with me? You know what I mean?
think,
So
John and I talk about this a lot too. I mean, again, this is one of the gifts of our friendship, and especially him living across the street, is just having someone that does what we do so close physically, so that when I see John and he goes, "How's your day?" I'll be, dude, honestly, I had a co-write and I've never been so in my head, or you know, or whatever. You know, like he'll come over and go like, "I've written another amazing song," and he'll apologize.
I remember saying that yesterday.
He's like,
Yesterday.
like,
And the day before.
and I'm going to play it for you, and I'm sorry because you're about to feel a lot of things. No, but you know, or he comes over and he says, "Man, it's been a frustrating day because I can't, you know, I'm stuck on this bridge or whatever." So that's such a gift. But I think that's something that's so interesting about what we do is I say this a lot, but it's so much like sports. It's like our careers tend to have a shelf life you can do it forever, and thank God the three of us are. But it's like you're really healthy, or the top of your game, or you're the novel thing for only so long.
Yeah.
And then at some point, you become a very loved but known entity.
Yes.
And so what you're offering the world doesn't quite have the shine.
Yeah.
Because they're like, dude, we love Matthew West, but this is your 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 20th single, record, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's great because you're good at it.
Yeah.
That's never the question. But man, there's this new kid out of Louisiana, and he's got this. And so when you live in a job, when you work in a job that novelty is king, it's hard to. I think that's something that people don't understand about what we do.
It's like I've heard the term a lot lately, even in some meetings that I've had when they're talking about a certain artist, and it's like the term new heat. And it's like you think about, man, that artist that's got this new heat, and it's like the three of us, we can never have that. You don't have new heat when you've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
But new heat is not the only worthy heat. You know what I mean? Like there's value in keeping your head down, doing good work, staying inspired, and hopefully touching people's lives with your music or your podcast or whatever it may be. And so I think like there is that component. And I had a conversation with somebody that were like, well, you only have heat once, and I'm like, man, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Like my first number one song was in 2004.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not chasing new heat because I'm not 21. You know what I mean? I'm chasing meaningful songs that can be timeless and connect to people's hearts. And as long as they'll let me do that, I'm happy to do that. And these days, it's like maybe that's one of the reasons why I loved your Bruce Hornsby interview. And maybe that's one of the reasons why you guys loved it too.
Oh, yeah.
Because we look at these guys and we go like, hey, that guy still has something to say and something to play. And you know what I mean? Like some of our favorite artists are not the ones who are the flash in the pan. Like they stayed relevant in their own way, or are staying relevant in their own way, and they're moving along with the times. And so I don't know. I just think about that a lot as a musician now, and I get to work a lot with like younger artists and writing with them. I know you guys write with other artists too, and whatever lane you get to be in on a given day to be creative, like that is a gift. And so I'm really thankful for longevity, and but at the same time, I'm still insecure too.
So one of the things that I feel like I have benefited most from this podcast, one of the many things, is just seeing how alike we all are. Like we kind of all have like a pretty similar little loop in our heads.
Probably.
And maybe some of us have like tackled it or dealt with it more are more aware of it than others.
Sure.
But it's kind of to your point, Dave, like one of the great things about living so close to each other physically and like physical proximity is we kind of see like all the common ground that we have on any given day. And I feel like it really just like, if I went back to talk to my 20-year-old self, it's not like I would bring any new wisdom. Like my 20-year-old self.
What would you say?
Well, it's like, I don't know how it would go. It may go like how you said, Dave. It's like, I don't know that there's anything that I could say to my 20-year-old self that someone didn't say to me when I was 20.
Yeah.
I just ignored it,
Right.
Like I just couldn't help but like have my own, trajectory, which a lot of it was fueled by my own insecurities.
Sure.
Of needing to prove, myself as an artist, et cetera, et cetera.
Which you got to have.
Well, in a lot of ways, that's what will lead us to the places we go. Like, you're exactly right.
Yeah. But now at this stage in the game, I really feel like the trick is like, are you going to let yourself enjoy your life and enjoy who you are? Because it's a lot easier for me to look at Matthew West and be like, dude, he's killing it. He's great. He's been around doing his thing at a high level since 97 and like has had all these accolades. He's got a beautiful family and that I can enjoy that from my vantage point. But you rob yourself of it. I'm meaning you, the collective. No,
you're
rob ourselves.
You're reading my
of it.
mail though. That's like
yeah.
And maybe I'd change my answer then if I could go back to my 20-year-old self. Maybe all three of us would go back and tell ourselves like, try to enjoy the stages as they come, like playing those colleges. Like, did I enjoy that, or was I just like anxious to get beyond it? And that goes for any whether someone's listening right now who's a musician or a plumber or whatever. Like that goes for the stages of our being dads with our kids and
Yeah.
because I think it's always been about what's next.
Right.
And that is a struggle to just enjoy.
And the fuel for me with that is the insecurity of it. Like, I think if I would have known, hey, when you're 39, here's where you're going to be. Here's what it kind of looks like. You're doing music. You've got this podcast. I think 20-year-old me would be like, my shoulders would drop, and I would more be able to enjoy myself in the moments. It's that sort of don't worry about tomorrow. Let tomorrow worry about itself.
Each day has enough trouble of its own.
I'm trying to grasp that.
Let me ask you guys this then.
Don't you do that? Don't you become podcast?
I gotta turn this thing around.
How dare you?
Do you think, in all honesty, what consumes the space in your head more? The God gave me you moments where the most amazing thing happens, you write a song that the whole world hears, or the song that didn't happen, the success that didn't come? Because I know one of the things that resonates with me is when I watch pretty much anything with Tom Brady. One, because we look so much alike. Two,
I thought you were. I was like, did we book Tom for today when you walked in the backyard?
Two, because
Tom got the schedule wrong.
Oh my
He's
gosh!
here.
But when you hear Tom Brady, he will talk way more about the Super Bowls he lost.
Yeah,
of course.
And you can tell he's still pissed about it.
Yeah,
right. There's something when I see that that I go wow, I tend to. So do you guys? Does the insecurity lead to sometimes where you're focused more on the opportunity that didn't happen, or are you guys good at enjoying? I'm seeing some pretty awesome plaques here. What dominates your thoughts more on a given day?
I mean, I'll one up you and say that I like the moment that God gave me you moments of my life. I'll take the joy out of those. You know what I mean? I'll be like. And this isn't. It's both and. It's I can enjoy them, and if enough time goes by, I'll be like, "Well, I haven't had one of those in a little while." And then you start looking at it, and you're like, "Well, and I didn't even really that was a great show, but we didn't quite sell it out, did we? Did we hit the back end on that?"
Oh, I call that. Yeah.
It's been 2 years since I put that song out. It's that whole thing.
Yeah.
I think one of the tricks about living in Nashville, I think about this a lot, is it is first a gift. It's a tremendous gift. I mean, I literally could get emotional about this. I think one of the greatest gifts of my life is that my friends are you guys. That my friends are people that I'm like, my 16-year-old self would be like, you know those people? I'd be like, bro, I know those people. He'd be like, you are kidding me, man. Awesome. Those guys are amazing. So I think one of the gifts of that is just being a community of musicians, being a creative community, being in a community with people who are so good at what they do.
Wow.
But I think the trick is you are in a community of the highest functioning version of what we do for a living. I mean, between LA and here, that's the two cities, and Nashville is chock full of insanely gifted people in what we do. And so I think the hard part of that is you are never at rest from bumping into someone, seeing someone, driving by a number one banner, or seeing somebody's playing the Ryman, reminded of kind of your station in the community. Yeah. And so I think what's hard is there's this underlying constant reminder of this is my life, which is a gift, and I know those people, and my buddy's playing the Ryman, which is amazing. But also, I'm not playing the Ryman, or he just got the number one, she just got the number one.
Yeah, it's there's always somebody who would give anything to be where you're at.
Yeah,
exactly. And there's always somebody that you would give anything to be where they're at. Did you ever hear Jim Carrey? He made a joke when he got up at the Golden Globes.
Yes. Amazing,
and he's like, I'm not just Jim Carrey. I'm two-time Golden Globe Award winner Jim Carrey. And then he talks about how
I go to bed at night,
I dream of being three-time because then I will be enough. And it was and it was so humorous, but he was reading the mail of everybody.
Oh man,
Golden Globes,
but I think that is the gift and so I say all that, I have to be gracious sometimes, because I think, man, if I even lived in Columbia, Tennessee, or Knoxville and did this, sure, there are new sets of struggles, and I'm sure I'd have a ton of FOMO, but there wouldn't be this constant reminder, at least in the physical sense of my literal physical community of friends, of what is good and not good and that's happening in my life all the time. And so I think, when you choose to do this for a living, it's a tricky little asterisk of living in Nashville is that
that's
there's
a
just
great point.
You know what I mean? So I have to be kind to myself in those moments where I'm like, man, that's great. Look what he or she is doing or the band's doing. Then I'm like, hey, that's what's so great about being here because one, those are your friends, and two, you get to be a part of the community like they do.
Right.
So I have a question though.
Yeah,
parlay.
Because I want to ask you more. No, I'm just kidding.
Actually, just you go first. No, so with your girl, I'm curious about this with your family, and you can give John and I some tips here because your girls are how old are they? They're like
so
teens.
my oldest is 16 and my youngest is 13.
Which, by the way, I thought
daughters.
that I Instagram stalked you this afternoon for a while. I thought they were Christian artists. That's how old they look. I'm not kidding.
They look so grown up.
I'm not kidding. I literally thought, he signed some young duo.
Man, my oldest daughter sent me a video the other day. She's like, "Hey, Dad, what do you think of this song for my high school singing group audition or whatever?" It's this group at the school. And she sent me a video of her singing in my studio while I was out of town. First of all, she picked an epic song. Every time you go.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
And I was like, that's
one of the best songs of all time.
But I was like, I didn't recognize her voice. Like, it sounded, I was like, and then my thoughts start going like, I'm a agent. No,
I've got an opener for the rest of time.
This
is
great. Longevity. It's her. No,
honey,
but yeah,
I found it. I have found our retirement plan. So with them being older, I'm curious as a dad who's in the industry and does what we do. How do they because our kids are still so young. How do they manage you? Like how do they do they know the language of dad's still in writing mode when he comes inside? Like give him a minute, or he's just come off the road. Let's be careful with requests, or he's really excited because he had a great song that he wrote today. You know what I mean? Like did they what does that look like? Because obviously we're our kids are still young. I'm curious with you being a little older with girls that are growing up and you being a musician. Yeah. What is that like?
It's funny because I think throughout most of my career, the acknowledgement that they would give me that they approve of what I do, it will only come in pockets, right? So it's just I'm just dad, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a recording artist to them. But then there's moments where they're like, okay, Dad, this job's pretty cool. And that would be like we would play this event at Universal in Orlando, and they would get a special employee from the park to take them on all the rides. And so they're going on the Harry Potter ride 6 times in a row without waiting in line, and they'll look at me and they're like, okay,
pretty
Dad,
cool.
Now today your job's cool, right? Now I will say, backing up, when they were younger, we actually homeschooled for 4 years, and we traveled in a family bus, and we raised our kids on the road and had incredible experiences. And so they're no stranger to that lifestyle. And I mean, you talk about what incredible experiences. Like, we're not just reading about Mount Rushmore. Today we're going, and then Dad's going to be on stage.
So great.
So that was an incredible experience. After 4 years, when they still couldn't spell their own name, I thought we need to get them in school.
She's 15. It's time.
Again, don't let the academics get in the way.
That's what I'm saying, John. But so I think they understand. They know all about it. I will say this, and this maybe will sum it all up, is literally, it was like 2 weeks ago, I walked back I have a little studio that I call the Story House behind my house. And I just happened to walk back there to do some work and make a cup of coffee, and I found a piece of paper from my journal had been ripped out, and somebody had written on it, and I picked it up, and it was a letter from my daughter Lulu.
Oh, come on.
Who had evidently gone back there, and I didn't know she was going back there, and she would work on music and stuff. And she just said, "Dear Dad, I just want to tell you how much I respect you, and you're such a gifted songwriter, and the way that you write songs and help people through your music, I just want you to know how much I look up to you. I love you." And I would,
what?
I'll start
I'm
crying.
tearing up
like,
right now.
I'm telling you, that will forever be a prized possession of mine. Like, she literally, and it was just never before said anything like that to me. And I don't, you know what I mean? And
that checks so many boxes.
Oh my gosh.
For me, I would be like, how sweet is that she took the time to write that out? To I feel like that's a win for me as a dad because I'm her dad. I'm this
100%.
person's dad who just left
she's
their
that
dad
thoughtful.
that note. And
Yes.
she's that thoughtful.
Yes.
Also, she complimented my songwriting.
It's like the trifecta.
It's the trifecta.
But, and I will say, because I know, like, this podcast, what I love about the theme of your podcast is, like, one of the reasons I was so excited to be here was one of my favorite things to talk about is my daughters and my family and what God shows me about what really matters in my life.
Right.
And so we've spent a lot of time talking about music, and it's like, but at the end of the day, like, I keep coming back to, like, I think one of the things that haunts me in my life in the best way, and we don't think of the word haunting to be a positive thing, but like sometimes it can be. And it's like, I don't want to get to the end of my life being so much more focused on the sheet of stats that you just read and then miss the boat. I always had this image of a ladder up against a building, and I spend my whole life climbing that ladder, and I get to the top and realize I had it up against the wrong one. Right. And so like, that's something that really haunts me. And it comes out in my songs a lot. I write songs about, like, I don't want to miss what matters.
Right.
You know what I mean? And what matters is Lulu and Delaney and them growing up. Because how many kids of singers and stuff do you hear in documentaries that were estranged from their parents?
Right.
Or, well, dad had this epic, iconic career, but we didn't really have much of a relationship with him.
Yeah.
And, like, I will trade the epic, iconic career any day of the week. Like, sometimes I look at it and I'm like, I'm glad. Like, I'm really glad that I'm the artist that I am and in the position that I am and not like crazy, like worldwide. You know what I mean?
Right.
Are they at the age where they can communicate that to you? Like, if y'all had conversations where they you know, if like you're going on a run or something of shows, or you're, you know, where they're like, hey, is there any way you could be here for this thing and not miss that? Or can, you know what I mean? Because they're old enough now where they're, you know, they're people.
Yeah, I think you're right. Because when they're younger, they can't verbalize what it means to them for you to miss their event. And I will, like, one of the things I pray for a lot is, like, God, I know you're in control of time. And, like, I read Bible verses that are like, that mess with your mind about how, like, a day is like 1,000 years and 1,000 years is like a day. And I don't think I understand that. But what it does tell me is that maybe somehow you can help me make up for some lost time. That maybe maybe 24 hours home can feel like 28. And I don't know how, but help me be intentional in that way. And I will say there's been times that I say my wife is the one who really can communicate to me, and she's the truth teller that'll say, hey, and we've been planning it right now. Like, we're planning ahead for my daughter's senior year and going, be mindful of this. You don't want to miss her last lacrosse game.
Yeah.
You don't want to miss homecoming. You don't. And I'm like, you're right. I don't. So I can't let my team go off to the races strategizing about where I'm going to be, because I know where I need to be. So I think that's a big thing. And when they were younger, maybe they couldn't verbalize it. But I've always, like, I hate the things I've missed. And I've had a hard time. I don't know if you guys struggle with this, but, like, it's hard to be content wherever you are, because when I'm on the road, sometimes there's just, like, guilt for what I'm missing. And when I'm home, it's like guilt for my team needing me to work or whatever it is. And so a lot of what we're talking about, whether it's personal and our aspirations or even just, family stuff, contentment is a really tough thing to land. That's a tough place to discover and land on a daily basis. Johnny.
Dave, that was good.
Yeah.
That kind of
Thank you.
Sort of summed it up. You're going to say yes to this, but I have to ask either way. Have you ever heard of Ragbri?
What? Ragbri?
Ragbri.
Can you spell that?
T-H-A-T. Come on, man. It's dead. It's dead.
You are on today.
Okay, R-A-G-B-R-A-I.
Yeah, I don't think that's a real word.
No, it is. It's when a group of people all get together and ride their bikes across Iowa. You know this.
And ride across Iowa.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I'm thinking if I ever do that, I'd want to do it on an electric bike.
Oh, I was going to say, you want to grab an electric bike.
Get it.
Because those are so much fun.
Yeah.
The electric e-bike's mission is simple, Dave. Make e-bikes accessible for who? everyone.
Me. Oh, everybody.
You and everyone,
Gosh.
Dave. They are surprisingly affordable, starting at just $7.99.
Yeah.
That's way less than the competition.
Yeah, you get where you need to go over any terrain, including snow and sand.
Yep.
It doesn't matter how emotional you are that day, you're going to get there. Plus, you can cover up to 45 miles, John.
That's insane.
At up to 28 miles per hour. I'm not going to do the math on how fast that is on just a 4 to 6 hour charge.
So how many miles is it to cross the state of Iowa?
Far too many, John.
Yeah.
Far
Well,
too many.
where will your e-bike adventure take you?
I don't know, John. It's so much pressure.
Well, go to electricbikes.com and get $100 off any e-bike purchase. That's LECTRIC ebikes.com.
Here's the humor, John. You just drop the E, and you got electric, but guess what the E stands for? Electric, and that's what you need.
Wow.
That's electricebikes.com and get $100 off any e-bike purchase.
You know, one of the things that I'm really grateful for, that a decision that Amy, my wife, and I made years and years ago that pays dividends, is she went on the road with me for the first 7 years that we were married.
Nice. Before kids and stuff.
Before kids.
Yeah.
And then when Luca, so I have two daughters.
How old are they?
9 and 6.
9 and 6. Okay.
So I need you to help me.
Dude,
But-
I was hoping you guys would help me.
No, other way around.
Okay.
But I like the fact that she knows, when I'm on a tour and I'm in Seattle, she knows that green room. You know what I mean? There's something that feels connected about that, even though, we're miles and miles and miles apart. And the fact that you guys did that with your girls, I feel like even if they don't realize how valuable that is, I'm sure it helps you, but I'm sure it helps them because they know where kind of how your day sort of goes on the road. It's not this foreign thing.
And that they understand the work that I'm doing and not it was always important for me. It's I don't want, this is not Dad's job. It's what's the song? Jesse Frazier wrote it. I just texted him the other day. I think it's a Thomas Rhett song. It's The Dream You Didn't Have. Have you heard that song? And it's Thomas singing. It's the singer singing to the wife saying thanks for chasing this dream you never had.
Wow.
And it's so, I was you literally just told the story of every singer of going this wasn't my wife's dream. This was my dream. And yet she's it's really profound when you think about it. But, it's always, I think it's important for our families to have a buy-in to what we do. And for any profession, to go hey, this is a family thing. And so I've involved my family at every turn. But for them to also see they've been on the road, they know Dad's not just goofing around. It's not just about waking up and finding the cool coffee shop. I'm going to work for my family. Yeah. You guys know John Acuff. Have you had him on your show?
Yep.
He said something really important to me that helped me a lot, because he would say that when he started speaking, he would make a big deal about his departure. Did you hear this story?
I love that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was really, and he told me his wife was hey, the kids don't even know to be upset, but you're making this big dramatic deal. Go do what you're called to do. And I think we all three probably have spouses that have communicated similar things to us to say, look, we're going to be okay. Yeah. We support you. We believe in you. That's the only way the three of us can still be doing this today, is probably because we've had that kind of support.
1,000%.
Right.
And so I'm thankful for that kind of mindset as well.
So what does the day-to-day look like for you? Like I said, I have a 9 and a 6-year-old girl. So our daughters are the same age
apart.
difference. Yeah.
And how old are your kids, Dave?
It's 10, 8, and 5.
Okay.
Yeah. So our kids stair step
yeah.
perfectly.
And they're probably and you guys are neighbors. They hang out all the time.
They all have
That's
tattoos. We
amazing,
gave them.
They're probably smoking.
I want to be in this.
right on the other side of that
Smoking.
You can
fence.
smell it.
The bubblegum cigarettes.
Oh my gosh!
With the fake
Or
smoke.
Side
vape.
note.
They don't vape, do they?
You know what
They're
I just
too young.
saw? We don't know.
Okay.
You know what I just saw the other day? This is a total aside. Big League Chew.
Oh,
I
BLC.
didn't know that was still
Dude,
around.
yes, it's still around.
I thought for sure
I loved
they
Big League
wouldn't
Chew.
be able to make tobacco pouches of fake tobacco.
Yeah, because it would. Yeah.
I just thought for sure that that's out.
It's a gateway
But it's
drug.
still around.
It's a gateway.
It's a gateway drug. That stuff, it tastes as long as it takes to say the name of it. But man, for that little
tastes
3
as
seconds,
long.
So good.
Yes, it is.
that little 3-second hitter, boy, you're like, here we go.
That sugar
And
high.
there it went.
Watermelon sugar, and then
So-
and then it's gone.
Yeah.
It tastes
So
like
the
cardboard.
day though, like I feel like on the macro sense, I'm in lockstep with you. I'm like, I don't want to miss these performances. I don't want to miss the recital, the soccer game, etc. And obviously we have to miss some things, but it's like on the macro, I want to make sure I'm there for all those things. I want to make sure I'm communicating to my family. Like I'm going to choose you guys over, obviously I gotta work and that's fine. But I do find myself thinking, all right, well, let's not let the micro slip by, like the date, the little things.
Yeah.
And that is something that I feel like I maybe need more help with than the macro. And we've talked about it on this podcast a lot. Like we talked to Kurt Thompson the other day, and he was talking about how, like, the message that kids even receive if your phone is in the room with you when you're talking to them, like that's a real challenge that kids pick up on, that like you're there, quote unquote, but like, am I on my phone all the time?
Yeah.
Like what is the day-to-day like for you in that regard?
Soon, and very soon for both of you, it will not just be the power of what happens when your phone is in the room. It will be dealing with the fact that their phone is
okay,
in the
so
room.
How did you guys, like, what was the rule around the phone?
Well,
when did they get a phone?
So I will say, like, COVID, sped some different things up for interesting reasons. Like my youngest daughter got a phone sooner than we would have normally allowed it to. But one of the reasons was because these kids were in their rooms and their only contact with their friends was literally they would FaceTime with their friends for hours and have this. And so things like changed, but then it became like we have to monitor. So, okay, some practical steps, obviously, from a phone standpoint. And then I want to talk about like the micro stuff that you're talking about, because you're so right. Like, and I can be guilty of having my phone on. My wife can be like, our phones are such an extension of our hands at this point, right? And so the parents have to lead the way and have no cell phone times together as a family. So sitting down for a meal, let us, for the love of God, put our phones somewhere other than the dining room table, and we're going to sit, and we're going to sometimes it's about, you have to force things as a parent. Like, it's okay to force
have
things
like a
to
rule.
happen.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times as parents, we're just scared to like my dad, like my brother wanted to quit working at McDonald's, and my dad wouldn't let him quit. Like, he was just like, no, you're not quitting. It was like, and I wanted to quit a sport one summer, and he was like, no, you signed up for it, you're finishing it. And I remember like a lot of times today, I feel like parents would get a bad rap for that kind of thing. Yeah. But like, I think it's okay. Like, we told our daughters, like, you're going to be in a play, at least one. And my kid was so mad. She's like, I got to be a flower in this stupid play or whatever. And I'm like, you're the prettiest flower ever. And we loved forcing her to do that, but we wanted that to be an experience. So sometimes it is about like saying, like, we have stuff put on their phones where the Wi-Fi shuts off. We watch and monitor their app usage and things like that. Some of that stuff's very important. But then on the micro, like, just, you're exactly right about the little things. Like, I want to be available to drive them to practice after school. I want to be involved in those little moments too. And it's different with each kid. You know what I mean? Like, as they get older too, I will say, like, right now for me, it's about, and this is not a little thing, but like, I said no to a bunch of shows in order to take my oldest daughter to this epic camp in California, like this daddy-daughter thing, that I am more excited about than any concert I'm doing this year, because she wants to go. It's not with her friends. It's like, it's just two of us going on an adventure, and it's like, let's go. That's amazing. When they turn 13, for each of them, I take them on a trip. I don't tell them when we're going. I surprise them. Pack a bag. We're leaving this afternoon. We get on a plane, and we have an epic 2-day trip, just the two of us. And that's a time where I had talked to him about some, important things like, sex and, I mean, all the things, right? And sometimes I wonder, was 13 too late, now? But like, my wife conveniently read in a textbook somewhere, like, if you have daughters, the husband should give the talk about sex and all those things. And if you have sons, maybe the mom. And I'm like, how convenient is it that we have two daughters? And you read that?
I can't remember what it was
I need to see that.
I can't remember. Maybe the Holy Spirit.
Exactly. So I know I threw a lot of stuff out there, but I think what it really resonates with me what you said about it's not just those big, like we're going away for a week-long camp or family vacation. It is like those little moments of like we're hopping in the pool together and we're making eye contact and my phone is off.
Yeah.
And I'm asking you questions and then I'm learning how to listen. And I'm learning how to, this is one of the biggest things that I struggle with, but one of the biggest pieces of advice that I've been given is like, listen, your kids are going to have hard days. Your kids are going to go through hard things because that's every one of our stories. But your job as a parent is not to fix their story. Your job is to walk with them through it. And that is going to be very difficult for each of you at different times. And it's even this past week, I had a situation where it took everything within me not to like fight. And as a dad, there's times where you got to fight for your kids. That's not what I'm talking about. But then there's also times where it's like you got to walk with your kids through their hard days, through the mean girl situation, through the being left out of a party, through the breakup, whatever it might be, and go, man, I want so bad to call this kid up and be the dude who strikes fear into the hearts of anybody who might come close to my daughters and harm them.
Right.
But how can I walk with them through the difficult parts of their story, whether it's anxiety or a mean kid or whatever it might be? And our kids are going to have stuff.
Yeah. What have you learned about that?
How
so
hard
far?
It is, first of all. I mean, like I've learned that restraint is, well, I've learned the heart of a father is protection. And I've learned, and you hear a lot of people talk about how they learn more about God through their journey as a dad. Right? You know what I mean? You learn, this is just a glimpse of how God sees me.
100%.
But I've also learned that it's like parenting. You ready? Can I say something incredibly profound?
Come on.
As if I haven't already.
Here we go.
Parenting is hard. Like being a dad, like it is, like it's the greatest joy of my life and the greatest challenge of my life, hands down. Yeah. And a lot of days, like just like I beat myself up when I don't feel like I did a good show, like so many days I beat myself beat myself up going, man, I think I failed as a dad today. One of the things I would say is like, when I do feel like I failed, like I lost my temper or I didn't listen to my kid or whatever, if I wasn't attentive, like I try to be on a race to the finish. If the finish line is, and I'm sorry, like I want to get there fast. Yeah. And so like, do you want to know like some of the most humbling moments, but some of the sweetest moments with my kids? Knock on the door of their bedroom. Hey, can I talk to you for a second? Dad's an idiot, and I handled that situation wrong, and I should have been more patient with you, and I just want you to know I'm sorry. No excuse, which that's hard to do in life in general, but that's something that has really been healing moments for me
is it harder with them as they get older, or easier, or the same?
Well, it's
as when you apologize.
I mean, when they're little, it's like they don't even, you know what I mean? Like, it's just those, I mean, you're at these really precious ages. I would say as they get older, it just gets deeper. You know, I think it becomes more important too, because, you know, when teenagers and attitudes and parents that can have an attitude back when your teenager has an attitude, it's like, but those moments of apology and forgiveness are, I have to believe that, like, if my kids grow up and say, you know, Dad wasn't perfect, but he wasn't afraid to admit it when he fell short of the mark, and I hope they remember those times that Dad wrapped an arm around him and said, hey, I'm sorry. Can you forgive me? Like, I should have gone easier on you there. I should have handled this better. So I think forgiveness is so important too. And I think as they get older, maybe it gets harder, but it also gets deeper and more meaningful, you know, because you're having these real conversations. And I will say as they get older, man, like tonight I got a date with my youngest daughter, and it's like, man, we're just going to go have dinner together. And the conversation is like rich, you know what I mean? Like, whoa, like you're smart and you're funny and sarcastic and like, this is a great conversation. You know what I mean? So there's beauty in every stage. How many times do we have? I mean, how many parents would tell you when you're getting ready to have kids, oh, this stage is the best. Oh, no. This stage, oh, it's the best, right? Or and as if one stage is not. But I mean, can we all agree? Like every stage has beauty to be discovered. You know what I mean? When they're tiny, amazing. When they're 16, this is awesome.
Do you feel like with your girls, they're I mean, 13 is obviously a lot younger than 16. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you know, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But do you feel like they're still changing in their personalities a lot, or do you feel like, because I think about stages and I think like what's so fun is like, oh, that was when we learned she loved drama, or he really loved soccer and he really became his, or you know, loved being creative and learned guitar, whatever. Have you found that with them, do you feel like when you think back to like their younger ages, do you feel like they were really just kind of an iteration or two from what that was, or have you seen them really go through these pretty seismic changes as a dad that you're like, oh, this is a new operating manual here than the 7-year-old version, the 10-year-old version of her,
Yeah.
you know?
You can kind of, I mean, I feel like, don't you feel like you can see their personalities in the making all through, and there might be pivotal moments where they have to experience something hard, and it really, then you start to see a seismic change. And, you know, I will say that, like, noticing their stark differences personality-wise, it's interesting in the same house to watch, you know, two daughters grow up and be like, well, one's an extrovert, one's an introvert. It's very interesting. And then also, it's like when we're writing songs, like when you write with one artist or one other writer, like your role might be different in that room, or you might have to approach it differently. It's like that with parenting, of going like, there's multiple playbooks here. If you have multiple kids, like you're going to have to parent each one of them differently. I think one of the biggest things I've learned is like kids put a lot of pressure on themselves. So like, I don't need to be the one heaping
That's a
any
good
more
word,
on them,
man.
you know?
That's
and
such a good word.
And I watch that. I watch the pressure my kids feel. Now I'm still going to like, if they didn't turn in their homework, I'm going to say like, hey, like that's not okay. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying, I try to remember, like at the beginning, you asked me like, well, when did you, you know, realize you want to do music or whatever? And it's like, here I was all the way up until, you know, 18, like still going, I think I'm going to play for the Cubs. And like, hello, that's like crazy, right? But
that was a big like moment in my head when you were saying that, because just as a side note, because, you know, I started playing piano when I was 4.
Wow.
And my girls are 9 and 6, and we still haven't like got them signed up for lessons and all that. And I mean, all the while I'm thinking, it's in my head. I'm thinking about it. I really don't want to be that over, putting the pressure on them to do anything, but especially music. But at the same time, I'm like, am I robbing them? Am I being irresponsible? Am I being lazy?
Yeah.
You know?
I hovered over my kids for a long time. Like we would sign them up for, if they showed any interest in anything, like we were going to open a lane for them. That was our goal, but not force them to do anything. Right. And so my oldest would, 5 years old, she'd be running around playing soccer. And I'm like, hey, you're fast.
It just cracks me up thinking of like the parent just looking at their kid doing anything,
just watching and going, is she gifted?
Is she ambidextrous?
Is she ambidextrous? Is she gifted? Is she gifted? I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, is she gifted? Was that gifted? Oh my gosh. Is that what that is? She eats so much food so quickly. Is that a thing?
Is that a thing?
What is that going to iterate into in her 30s? Because I'd love
What's the scholarship rate on that?
What's the program we need to get her in?
Are volleyball players big eaters? I knew it. She's got volleyball.
I would sign them up though and be like, hey, you're pretty, you know, do you like that? No. Okay. Well, we're not going to do that. Right. And I would sometimes panic going like, hey, let's find your passion or whatever. And then I'm like, hey, idiot, you had passions at a young age, but like it had nothing to do with what you wound up doing for a living. Like, be patient with them. Yeah. And lo and behold, my oldest, I love it. I love the way her mind works. She's like, Dad, I think I'm going to try out for lacrosse. I was like, what? What is that? Like, I don't even know what that is. And I don't know anything. I think it's like an East Coast sport. I don't understand it. Yeah. I'm like, why? And I'm like, you've never even done it. And she's like, well, it's a pretty new sport for the school. I think I'll make the team because nobody else is very skilled at it either. I was like, that's really smart. So then, all of a sudden, like, she's practicing, she's finding.
You're yelling, is she gifted?
I'm like, is she gifted?
So, coach.
But then all of a sudden, she's starting, and I'm out there watching this kid going, I did nothing to motivate that or force that. Yeah. She found it. Yeah. She liked it. She has a drive to be great at it. And you know what? That's awesome. Yeah. So learning to, and then it's like, okay, well, what is my role? Maybe I could be like the biggest cheerleader ever. And I love that she picked a sport that I don't know anything about because I can't critique
Dude,
it.
how
I'm like, you're awesome. You might be the best lacrosse player I've ever seen. You're also one of the only ones I've ever seen, but you're amazing.
Do you? I was going to ask you a second ago, with your wife and the girls, to your point about like, okay, my role in this with this daughter, just with this daughter, is I'm not going to be the greatest to come in after she's had a breakup, bad game, whatever. That man, with my wife, with this daughter, she's the best. For some reason but man, with this daughter, I am the better one to go in because she's. Have you found that to be true?
100%. I mean, can we all in unison or unanimously agree that like where would we be without our amazing spouses to show us and help us become better parents?
Yeah.
It really is like we do strengthen each other. And as they get older too, like I mean, as a dad, you know, if your daughter has a breakup, like it's a challenge to be the listener and the supporter, you know what I mean? Like, and not try to interject or fix the situation. So I definitely have found that there's times it's different with each daughter. And it all comes down to like being attentive, you know, like knowing where you need to step in and not, and knowing how to step in with each child because their personality is different. You don't want to shut them down. My wife is so good at like being there when the kids are ready to talk. Sometimes I'll just be like, well, we're together now. I expect them to open up. But like my wife, like she'll stay up super late.
Yep.
And she'll hang in the kitchen. And I'm like, man, what are you doing? Like, let's go to bed. And she's like, no, Lulu was ready to open up about some stuff and I wanted to listen. And I'm like, that's admirable.
Amazing.
So I learned so much from my wife about how to, you know, navigate the path as a dad.
Man, when John and I started the Dadville podcast, we had no idea what we were doing.
I mean, zero idea. That was till we found Anchor.
Exactly. Anchor is a free service that will help you build and distribute your podcast. It's so easy that it allows you to record and edit your podcast right on your phone or your computer.
Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so that you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many, many more.
That's right. And they'll help you make more money on your podcast with no minimum listenership.
So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
It's a weird and tricky thing, I think, as artists who are, you know, we're kind of known to be more sensitive in the male world, like, you know, singer-songwriters. Yes. I think everybody would agree, like, hey, you guys are probably got a couple of antennas up that maybe other people don't have.
That's right.
And so it's been funny with our kids because our oldest has really gotten into basketball lately, and like I am just not built to, like, I love sports. I grew up playing sports, not at like the highest level, but you know I participated.
Yeah,
and
athletic and
you can see it in my legs.
I can see it. I was like, dude, he's a soccer player.
If I'll flex my calf.
Shorts.
They're
are those the 5-inch
boxer briefs? But
the 5-inch shorts? Is that the 5? Or the Lululemon 2.5?
My voice is a little higher because they're tight. But like I've noticed, it's been a really interesting journey as a dad because like I am just naturally going to be more. Get out there and do your best. You got this. Come on, man. Yeah. Like, great game. And I'll never forget, like, Ben got in the car, like, after last year because all of his friends are soccer kids. They're all really good at soccer.
And he likes basketball.
He's good, but he started getting into basketball, and they all got into basketball, and they were terrible. I mean, they got pistol whipped every game. I mean, it was just the Godfather over and over. It was just bad, yeah. And so after one of the games, he gets in the car and he is he's actually angry. And I was like, you know, me and my sort of like, how'd it go, bud? And he's like, that was awful. That was awful. And I was like, hey, y'all had some. And he's like, Dad. He goes, Dad, stop. Don't. He goes, 9 years old. He goes, that was awful. And if it's like that, I don't want to ever do it again. I was like, okay. And I'm thinking, okay, real time. Here's Dad. Put like dad mode activated. I'm like, well, tell me why. And he said, well, because like we were terrible. We couldn't compete. They were a lot better than us. Everybody missed their shots. And I was like, all right. And he said, I couldn't believe he said this 9-year-old. He goes, please don't lie to me and tell me that was good because you and I both saw how bad that was and it doesn't help. And I literally,
it doesn't help.
And I'm literally going, well, what I'm thinking is this is when Annie shines. Yeah. My wife is a truth teller, and she would have been like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Like, and let me tell you what you didn't do right.
Yeah.
Which he
Yes.
really responds to.
Yes. Yeah.
That one of ours, but he's got me. So I'm like, okay, it wasn't great. It was not a great showing. He's like,
gonna
yeah, it was
force
awful.
all the 7 of you to
Yeah,
look at it.
Yes.
Look at it.
I'm like, there are some goods we can take away, though.
Oh,
but
that's
you guys
amazing.
laughed. One of the kids laughed at one point.
That
and
was
it was
fun. Yeah.
You know, but I think for me, I'm learning it's an interesting thing as like a more, you know, like sure I love, but I'm a little more geared towards sensitivity and empathetic,
Sure.
and
I would agree to that.
and I think
yeah.
with Annie, it's tricky because she is amazing at like basketball. It's been so funny with Ben. Like she was really good at basketball. She had like she held the record for 3 points in a season at her high school.
Wow.
And
3 total points?
3, yeah, it was like amazing.
Wow.
They were.
There wasn't a lot
yeah,
of
she was the
scoring.
only one. It was a home school. She was the only one on the team, and so they just guarded her.
I'm
it was
just
5 on
picturing
1.
this scared lone kid on the court,
just chucking
just
threes.
chucking them up.
But like Annie is really good at that, and so when
Yeah.
he came home and wanted to play basketball, she's like, "We're going to start running drills," and she put him out in the thing, and I'm thinking, part of me is getting a little ashamed because I'm like, this is sort of what I should be, and I'm like, that's just not.
Yeah.
This is not going to be where I shine. I can
Sure.
support in other ways.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because, you know, we're like, I really relate to our other kids in different ways. And so it's interesting. I think as a dad, it's hard not to start drinking the Kool-Aid on like those masculine things or the you know, like busting their chops. Like that's what you get in the car and dad's going to really, you know, like I'm going to give it to you straight about how the game went. I'm like, that's just not me. But it's funny because that's where she shines so much, and they have such a beautiful kind of bond. And he'll kind of, and I'm encouraging, and I've learned since then to be a little more honest because I think it helps him because he's not looking at me going, "Just tell me how to great game."
Sometimes I feel like I can, and as we all do, like we're bringing in our own things to, like Stephen James really opened my eyes to this. So like, 9 times out of 10, whatever you're concerned about in any given situation with your kid, it's probably your thing.
Yeah. The
that
lens. Yeah.
Like
your
in
own
that
story
car,
impacting
I'm
it.
thinking his self-worth is tied to that basketball game because I'm an insecure artist, and a lot of my things
Every
are
bad
tied
show.
to it. So I'm running Ben
That's-
through the me filter.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, maybe someone like Annie who doesn't have that exact makeup
that's so
is
true.
like, no, it's just Ben's just looking at the game.
Yeah. Let's just talk about the game.
And it really
Yeah.
does come back to like, okay, is your job to like fix your kid's story and because you're so driven by your own experience that you're tempted to like interject and go, well, this is how it worked for me, or this is what I struggle with, so I'm going to assume.
Right.
Or is your job just to walk with them through theirs and realize that they are uniquely designed, and they're going to have a unique set of circumstances. And I'll tell you, one of the biggest things that like when I notice, and this is when I feel like maybe there's a moment in our concerts where you feel like this is going well. Like, right? You guys know what that moment is. It's like when a joke, joke lands, or you hear the applause, whatever. But for my kids, I'm noticing as they get older, a moment when I feel like I'm winning as a dad is when like they genuinely want they're asking for my advice in a situation, and they're genuinely leaning in to want to know what I have to say about it.
But how about
Holy
that
cow.
feeling you have in that moment is so intense.
So
Because it's like what John joked about earlier, like, oh, I think this is like the moment.
This is are we doing this? Is this happening?
Yes.
And the fact that happens, and you have a 16 and 13-year-old daughters.
And they're not like
That you have one.
And I'm sure there's plenty of eye rolling. There's plenty of experiences where they're like, "Dad, blah blah." You know, that happens. But then there's moments where we're standing in the kitchen, and she's like, "I just don't know what to do about this situation with so and so." And I'm like, "Well, tell me about it." And then I'm like, "Well, do you want to know?" Sometimes it's about, "Do you want my opinion?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've actually been learning to ask that question
Wow.
to a lot of people.
Jeez, that would help my life so
like,
much.
do you want before I say anything? Like, do you even? Is this? Because sometimes they don't want to.
If my wife is listening right now, she's yelling in the car.
She's saying,
Listen, Dave, take this
Like,
in.
how do I take a screenshot of something someone said?
Oh man, I tell you what though. I mean, this is a process. Like I love And I love that we're talking about this. Like, this gets me more excited than music because I feel like when we talk about legacy, like, I mean, we know what's really going to last. And,
right. One of the things, Acuff said to me, I've thought about this quote. I think about this quote all the time. He said this years ago. Legacy is not really what we leave, it's what we live.
True.
I actually said that better than he did, but that is what he said.
I like
the idea
your
that,
delivery.
but the idea is like it's not something people forget about you the minute you're gone. I mean, like you'll have one generation that grieves you.
Yes.
But even a few years later, they're kind of like, oh, we loved him. He was great, but he's gone.
Yeah. So true.
And it was such a reminder to me of like all I really do have is now. Like that's it. And I think with my kids, my wife, with whatever, it's like. Because when I'm gone, and there'll be some sweet things, and every now and then my kids will be sad, and that means a lot to me. But eventually,
but this is it.
That's it. Yeah. This is what I got now, and it just makes everything much more paramount, and in really scary ways, but I think in really beautiful ways too, because it makes you realize like there's like this is it. When that moment happens, and your daughter squares up, and she's like, "Hey, what do you think?" It's like that's the moment. That's the moment.
Yeah,
like,
and it really, I mean, it begs the question. Why have we been sitting here talking to each other this whole time? Why are we not with our kids?
I haven't been. I've been texting. I've been texting my kids.
But I will tell you too. Like, I mean, and not to get too heavy, but I think I bet we could swap stories of things that have happened to friends or loved ones in these last few years, or we've seen somebody. I mean, I've seen a peer of mine whose daughter is in cheerleading with my daughter, who everybody got sick. But he just didn't get well, and at 47, he's gone to heaven, and a wife and 2 daughters, just like my family, are trying to figure out life without their dad and husband, and I think we've all seen these things in our lives right now, and it's like those are the things that if we don't let that affect how we view the world and how we view legacy and how we view right now, how we view what matters most, music, professions, careers, whatever it is, versus the kids that God's blessed us with in our lives and the best friend that we sleep next to, and how are we investing in those relationships. So I've been rocked to the core in big ways these last couple of years of going like, and really saying like, God, forgive me, because I feel like I've missed it a lot of times, but man, there's more times than not lately where I'm not missing it.
Yeah.
And because it haunts me, again, there's that word again. I want to be haunted in the best way by the reminder of what really matters.
Yeah. Look at you. Look at that soundbite. Okay. Thank you.
We
for your
would
time.
end it right there because that was a great.
But
line.
guess what? We
But
got two
have
questions we ask.
Okay. I hope is this going to be a long episode? Like,
Well,
how
we
long
gotta-
are your episodes?
we
Will
need
you
to
edit
start.
most
We
of what
try
I
to
said?
keep them at 10 minutes.
What are we looking at? The rest can be bonus, though. Don't worry. We'll turn that into a bonus footage. Okay, so I'll ask the first question. Thank you again for being on, by the way.
Yeah, man,
honored.
this has been great.
I'm
We
a
didn't even
huge
talk
fan
about
of
you have a
guys.
book coming out. You
Nah,
got like
it doesn't matter.
Just
None of it matters.
Give a little shout out to
None of
what's
it
going on.
matters.
Just get everybody that needs to know what's going on. Matthew Westworld.
It's well, if your listeners are the readers, I think they are. They like to pre-order their books 5 months early. That's what I know
Am I
about
right?
your listeners.
Is that the demo here? Is that-
Look, if you love a book, you'll love a pre-order.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Where you don't get the book yet, but the assurance that it's coming.
Yeah.
Right.
No, it's called The God Who Stays, and I wrote it throughout COVID. Actually,
Oh, wow.
The premise it begins on March 12th, 2020, where our concert in Trenton, New Jersey was canceled 2 hours before showtime, and I got in an Uber outside the arena to drive me to the Philadelphia airport, and I was kind of having a panic attack in the back of the Uber.
Jeez.
But my song came on the Uber driver's radio, and it was a song called "The God Who Stays." And all of a sudden, like my song singing to me.
Jeez
But the Uber
Louise.
driver from a third world country, he was singing every word of my song in broken English, like driving down the interstate. And this was literally like when everything was shutting down.
Yeah.
And so the whole book premise began with this story of me talking to Arthur, the Uber driver, and having him tell me why he loved that song, why he knew every word, and how it reminded him that he's been through many hard things, but he knew that God
Did you tell him it was you?
I never told him it was me. And so I sang along with him, and the joke of it was I sang thinking he might go, you sound just like the guy on the radio.
My God.
But literally, I got to the end of the song. I was like, finished the song, and I leaned forward. I was like, hey, man, how did I sound? Thinking he'd be like putting 2 and 2 together, and he goes, not so good.
No. Oh,
He's like, but you're not professional like him on the radio. It's
He's like,
not.
look, we can't all be Matthew
Yeah,
West.
he encouraged me. He's like, you keep trying.
with auto-tune, you could get there.
Exactly.
Maybe.
But anyway, the whole book just goes on to talk about, as we experienced an extreme season of distance and separation from each other, just the promise of God's closeness in our weakest moments is really what the book is about. Chapter by chapter reminders of how God stays with his children, and we're never without his presence. So, and there's some pretty fun stories of my kids. One in particular of me taking my daughter shark cage diving.
What?
And,
Where?
In Florida. That was her dream, my oldest. And I was taking her on that trip where we were going to have the sex talk and stuff. And she said, I've always wanted to go shark cage. She's an adventurer. And my youngest is not, but I surprised her with this shark cage diving trip. I thought I'm either going to be the best dad in the world or the worst in history. And anyways, the trip went. I wound up like, she was so courageous, but I was like a nervous wreck because the captain, we got 2 miles off the shore, and he's like, it's such a nice day. And the water's a little choppy. We're not going to use the cage today. We're just going to swim in open water.
No.
That's
the beginning of a horror
movie. Dude, we swam with about 20 bull sharks, and I had a panic attack the entire time.
He's like, I smell a lot of urine. I don't know.
I was like, are they attracted to pee? Is that going to happen?
You're going cage diving.
Yes, and then
he's like, let's not use the cage.
He's like, you won't get good visibility. If you guys are comfortable, we're just going to swim in open water. And I didn't want to be the only one who said, I am not comfortable with that. And
as long as there are no sharks, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, my daughter. And then they were chumming, like Jaws.
They chummed.
They're not supposed to chum the water. I'm telling you, we survived to tell the story.
Was the guy's name Lucifer? It was like Bill.
He was like this hungover.
Hey, Billsy Bub.
He was a hungover captain. It was a amazingly terrible day, but my daughter loved every bit of it. And by the end, here was the funny part: is that night we went to dinner, and I'm supposed to have this talk about some pretty hard things, and I started to realize like the Lord had given me a gift of like the perfect analogy. It was like, all right,
I'm
so
just running
when it comes
through
to
the analogy.
boys, I'm like, do you remember the sharks in the water? I just said, let me just tell you, the sharks are in the water. Do not leave the cage.
All right, that's good. I'll see you. We'll see you in the morning, hon.
I'll see you on your wedding day.
God, that is hysterical.
Anyways, I know we went past our 10 minutes.
I have a friend who did not with his daughter because he's got all girls too, but he went on a mission trip to South Africa and they did like
great whites.
but great whites caged out, and I was like, bro, I can't. There's
it was awful.
I don't know what you would have to threaten me with to actually get me to do that.
Yeah.
But I don't know that there's a thing.
So here's the premise of that chapter was the great lengths that a father was willing to go in order to be with his child. And what the Lord showed me through that is like the last thing I've ever wanted to do in my life was to swim with sharks. Never. I've been scared of the ocean since my parents let me watch Jaws as a kid.
Our whole generation
yet I did it. I did it because it was like, I'll do anything to be with her. And the whole chapter unfolds to talk about like, okay, now let's talk about the God who made you.
You got
Did you tell her that afterward? Were you like, hey, just FYI, I did not want to do that.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I did
She
that.
knew.
But she knew you didn't want to do it.
She knew because I said no for the long. I was like, this is insanity. We're not doing this.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, what would be the greatest surprise? To do the very thing I said we'd never do.
You should, on podcasts in the future, you should show them your arm and be like, shark attack. And that's how much I love my daughter.
And that's how much.
You want to keep the cage.
You want to keep the cage.
Gosh.
I got the scar to prove it.
Okay, so, golly. I don't know how you follow that, but here we go. Okay, so we have a couple of questions we ask every guest. What is the one thing you want your girls to know?
Just that God has the best plan for their life.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah. There's so many other things too. I mean, obviously, but I would say I can't make it about what I would want them to know about me, because at the end of the day, God's just put me in their life for a season. And I believe the ultimate goal of us as dads is to point them to their Heavenly Father. And so hopefully that's what I would leave them knowing.
Yeah. All right. Last question.
I'm trying to answer short because I know I talked so long.
No, you stop.
Was that a good short answer?
You're performing well.
Try to keep this next one even shorter.
I'm going to beat myself up for days after this interview. Listen, if I know me.
This real talk we haven't recorded, but we'll do. You passed the test. We'll have you back.
I've been texting pretty much everything you said. Years from now.
Yeah.
Decades even.
Yeah, hundreds of years.
Hundreds of decades.
You're back in the water because you just wanted to swim with the sharks one more time. You're just off the coast of South Africa.
Yes.
Because you're a thrill seeker.
I am.
It's a beautiful day.
Okay.
So the cage is on the beach.
Okay.
And the shark takes you.
The shark takes
You're done.
You have passed on.
I've passed.
What do you want your girls to say at your funeral?
So heavy. That is so
See
heavy.
how he did like a little light dive into a very heavy thing. That's his skill set.
He died half the man.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry.
Oh
I'm
my
just picturing
God.
my torso floating in the ocean water. Oh man, okay, so here I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna give you an answer that I heard at a funeral service, and I've never forgotten it. And I've thought, if this one thing could be said about me at the end of my life, then I did something right. And it was a funeral I sang at as a favor. I didn't know the man. And I also didn't know it was going to be one of those types of funerals where they let anybody and everybody stand up and speak who wanted to. Wow. So I wound up singing some Chris Tomlin worship song for like 3 hours in the background, right? But the last person stood up to speak, and it was the man's best friend. And he said, do you know what I find is the most fitting tribute of our friend here today? Is that of all the people that have spoken, there has not been one conflicting report. And I just thought, jeez. And I immediately thought of that, like that Brazilian miner who had been rescued, and waiting for him at the top was his wife and his girlfriend, and they were meeting at the same time, right? But I thought about like this here. I was like, what does it look like to live a life with no conflicting reports? Like, jeez, am I who I say I am? Do I live how I say I want to live? Are there, skeletons in my closet that'll be found when I'm gone and disappoint my loved ones? Like, that's some heavy stuff to think about. Yeah. And making a list of like, if I mess up, like, who am I letting down today? And that's something that I keep close to my heart always, because none of us are perfect and none of us are bulletproof either. Yeah. And we got a lot of people counting on us, and I want there to be no conflicting reports when Dad's gone, Yeah.
Man, come on now. Come on, Matthew West.
Come on. Dude, this was great. Thank you so much.
I had a blast. Thank you for having me. It's an honor.